As soon as the woman and the president stepped out of the house, she sensed something was wrong, and sure enough, a large group of assassins suddenly appeared. Luckily, the woman was an expert shooter. In just seconds, she took down several attackers, but while reloading, one wounded assassin managed to rush toward her. She reacted instantly, shooting him down and finishing the threat. Suddenly, a car came speeding in and slammed into her, sending her flying across the ground. A killer stepped out of the vehicle and slowly walked toward the injured woman. At that moment, the president shouted to stop him. The assassin turned and stared silently. The president raised his weapon and pulled the trigger. Some people just don't listen. Just as he helped the woman back to her feet, another wave of assassins stormed in. It was clear they were trapped. The president helplessly lowered his weapon, then a killer sneaked up from behind and knocked the woman unconscious. When she woke up, she realized her hands were tied and suspended in the air. Across from her stood a brutal-looking man, staring her up and down with a disturbing grin, but he had no idea who she really was. Her name was Ellie, the youngest elite agent in the president's Secret Service team. She was highly trained. On her own, she could handle 2 special forces soldiers at once. Under normal conditions, she could end a fight in under a minute. Watching her skills, her uncle Sam felt extremely proud. Not long after, Ellie officially began working at the White House. When she first met the president, she was nervous. As a newcomer, her first assignment was simple, delivering refreshments. But she never expected real danger to arrive so quickly. One agent had called in sick, so Sam arranged for Ellie to take his place on Air Force One the next day. She was shocked, but what she didn't know was that the heavily guarded aircraft had already become a target. In another country, a powerful general believed his president had betrayed the nation by selling oil to the United States. Enraged, he ordered the secretary executed and began planning revenge. His goal: hijack Air Force One. First, assassins were sent to eliminate members of the presidential security team. Using hack systems, the general broke into U.S. satellite networks. Then they forced one escort agent to fake an illness and step away from duty. Threatening his family, they made sure he complied, but even after that, they didn't let him go. Everything was carefully arranged to allow an undercover operative to board Air Force One. Meanwhile, the president had no idea any of this was happening. Soon, he arrived at the airport. Ellie watched in excitement, unaware that danger was already closing in. After boarding, the president noticed Ellie and smiled briefly before being escorted to his private cabin. As final flight preparations began, the attackers made their move. Once the plane was airborne, the pilots were eliminated and control of the aircraft was seized. The general was immediately informed. At 30,000 feet, a deadly battle was about to begin. Sam, the head of security, was the first to notice something was wrong. The onboard network suddenly went offline. The president's live interview was abruptly cut off, replaced by the general's voice. He announced coldly, "Your aircraft has been hijacked." Sam immediately began organizing defenses, while the president was rushed into the safe room. At the same time, agents began falling one by one. The disguised killers revealed themselves and took control of the passengers. Following the pilot's instructions, everyone was forced to buckle up. Then the plane began violent aerial maneuvers. Security agents struggled to stay on their feet. Sam was injured during the chaos. Although the aircraft deviated from its route, U.S. radar systems still showed normal data. The general had manipulated everything to force the president out of hiding. The terrorists threatened the lives of innocent passengers. Left with no choice, the president stepped into the cabin. But he never expected his 2 guards to be killed instantly behind him. Powerless, he returned to his private room. That's when the general contacted him directly. He demanded that the president hold a public broadcast from Air Force One and cancel the oil deal. "You have 1 hour." A guard was sent in to monitor him, but the president wasn't weak. He launched a surprise attack, kicking the chair, charging forward, and striking the assassin. For a moment, he gained the upper hand. He grabbed a cup and slammed it into the attacker. But in the end, the assassin recovered first and picked up his weapon. With no options left, the president was forced to stand down. However, because of his status, the assassin could only restrain him. At that exact moment, Ellie quietly approached the president's cabin. The killer outside suddenly received a list from another operative. After realizing that 2 enemies were still on the loose, the assassin decided to search for them personally. The moment Ellie saw him leave, she immediately knocked on the president's cabin door. As the guard went to open it, Ellie suddenly kicked the door open, knocking the gun out of his hand. The 2 instantly engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Both fighters were highly skilled, trading blows with no clear advantage. But the assassin had a knife. Slowly, Ellie began losing ground. She was stabbed and badly injured. At the critical moment, the president rushed in to help but was quickly thrown aside. With her life on the line, Ellie forced herself to fight back. During the struggle, she managed to disarm the assassin and seize his blade. The situation instantly turned. After a fierce exchange, the killer was finally taken down. Even though Ellie took another heavy hit, she countered with a deadly strike. After several blows, the threat was eliminated. With the danger temporarily over, Ellie quickly escorted the president away. Meanwhile, Sam launched his own counterattack. He fought fiercely and subdued one enemy, but because of his injuries, he was eventually captured by another assassin. The terrorists used Sam's life as leverage, demanding Ellie surrender. But Sam stood his ground. Over the radio, he told Ellie, "Protect Falcon at all costs." The gunshot that followed shattered Ellie's heart. Holding back tears, she chose to honor her uncle's final wish even if it meant sacrificing her own life to protect the president. By now, the terrorists had slaughtered the remaining passengers and learned that Ellie had rescued the president. They mobilized their entire force to hunt them down. Tragically, their pilot had already been killed by Ellie. After reporting to the general, the hijacked plane spiraled out of control and crashed into the ground. Meanwhile, Ellie and the president successfully parachuted to safety. Only then did the US military detect the missing aircraft signal and realize the crisis. The vice president was informed immediately and dispatched General Miller to assist in the rescue. At the same time, after learning the president was still alive, the enemy general sent more assassins to track him down. Stranded in foreign territory, deep in the forest with no signal, Ellie and the president searched for shelter. They eventually found an abandoned building. There, Ellie treated the president's wounds. The president realized that the only way the terrorists infiltrated Air Force One was through betrayal from someone close to him. He thanked Ellie sincerely. Ellie also learned that the president had once been a soldier himself. After resting through the night, they continued moving at dawn, but the enemy had already surrounded the area. The deadly ambush from the beginning of the story now unfolded. Although Ellie wiped out the first wave, she was eventually overwhelmed and knocked unconscious from behind. The president was taken to the general's temporary command center. The general demanded he record a message canceling the oil deal, but the president refused without hesitation. "Beat me all you want, kill me if you must, but I will not be threatened." Meanwhile, Ellie was tied up and suspended from the ceiling. One of the guards, driven by lust, approached her, forgetting she was a trained special forces operative. The moment he loosened her restraints, he sealed his own fate. The massive man never expected to be defeated by someone he underestimated. He was brutally killed with a hammer. What followed was pure destruction. Ellie stormed through the compound like a force of nature. Armed with only a hammer at first, she eliminated enemy after enemy. Once she obtained a submachine gun, she became unstoppable. Room by room, floor by floor, she wiped out every armed attacker in her path. These mercenaries never imagined they would face a warrior this deadly. One woman annihilating an entire trained force. After clearing the building, Ellie made it outside, but guards quickly spotted her. More enemies rushed in. It didn't matter. They were all eliminated. Even the general's personal bodyguards were taken down. Desperate, the general used the president as a human shield and shot Ellie. Walking up, he mocked her weakness, but he spoke too much. From behind him, the president fired. The general collapsed. The president made sure he would never rise again. News of the president's rescue was quickly transmitted back home. Because General Miller was nearby, headquarters ordered him to move in for extraction. His convoy soon arrived, but the danger wasn't over. While treating Ellie's wound, one soldier exposed himself with a suspicious comment. Ellie instantly reacted. In seconds, 3 guards were eliminated. The president was confused. Ellie explained. "One of them claimed to know a soldier named Scott Gray, but Scott Gray doesn't exist. I made him up." Then she said calmly, "Miller isn't here to save you, Mr. President, he's here to kill you." Her words proved true. Miller drew his weapon. The president couldn't believe his trusted ally had betrayed him. Miller claimed he simply opposed the president's policies. The president assumed Miller wouldn't dare pull the trigger. He was wrong. Once again, Ellie stepped in and saved his life. When they reached the extraction point, they found it completely abandoned. With no other choice, the president made a bold decision. He would fly them home himself. Escorted by fighter jets, the damaged aircraft finally crossed back into US airspace. Against impossible odds, they made it home safely. The movie ends here. Thanks for your watching. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out.